wonky? It's a bit wonky. Okay. May as well talk about this wonderful time in my life. Maybe my story might help people who have been bullied or are being bullied just to feel a bit more seen, and that their experiences are unfortunately all too common. So I went into something that on paper is my dream job, and I worked my socks off in this job. Yeah, we're talking like weekends. Like I remember going into the office at weekends and working like extremely long hours and yada yada yada. And then I started to experience quite bad behaviour from more senior people, and the person that was managing me in particular. And this seemed to be linked with their own kind of insecurities because they weren't very good at their job. And like, not that I care necessarily about that, but I do care if it's kind of being made to be my problem. And this person like spent a lot of time shouting at me and humiliating me publicly in front of people. Just tried to make me out to be incompetent like constantly. It's really frustrating because I'm not incompetent and I'm really good and I'm really highly qualified a lot of the time for the types of jobs that I do. You're like overqualified, yada yada yada. Like, not that I care, like I would, as long as I like am treated well. It's really difficult as an autistic person as well because like, you know, I kind of take things at face value and I take things literally, and you know, I thought like policies and laws are like there for a reason, but institutionally like that didn't seem to matter. I think coming from a background of like violence and depression and growing up around those themes have made me really passionate in this field, and it's also made me really sick of being bullied. Like I've been bullied by family and friends and, you know, ex-partners and colleagues, and it's just a bit like, I get it. Okay, I get it. As in, I get that I'm someone that people pick on firstly, but secondly, like the issue is the cultural ideas of these kind of functions and these kind of relationships. Like there's something chronically wrong with those dynamics and those kind of, you know, ideas. I need to sort out my memory, I think. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. As in the memory of my camera. Yes, it was really exhausting, like me doing my job, which was like 3 jobs in one job, and then also keeping track of all these lies, and doing all the work to do evidence, you know, to show all of this, but also no one cared. So I produced like my normal work, then I was doing this kind of anti-bullying work, but the person that was bullying me didn't care, and the senior people didn't care. And even though it's like their job and the whole institution is meant to care about these things. So yeah, it was like really exhausting work, and they already knew that I was disabled. One of the ways to get rid of someone in an institution is to try to make it out like they're not good at their job. So that's where the made up performance work came from, because it was a way to try to frame me as someone that was so incompetent that like they had to get rid of me because, oh my god, kind of thing. And one of the problems is like when someone's treating you so badly and like is screaming at you and is bullying you and harassing you and discriminating against you, that's a really hard situation to be working in anyway, right? So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that like the bully makes the person so distressed that they can't really function and they can't really do what they need to do. But even the thing is like I did basically everything that they asked for and it still wasn't good enough. I remember there was some massive project that I had to do and they were all claiming that I hadn't done it, and I had literal proof that I had done it, and it was just ignored, and like, you know, this false narrative continued. And under data protection laws, I got access to some of the things that were being said about me, and it was complete lies. They were like saying like Nadia is in no way fulfilling their job description, and they forced me to time myself by the minute. And so every task I did, I had to time myself by the minute and write down what I was doing, and they kept asking for more and more details, and it was really disturbing because everything that I struggled with as a disabled person, they would purposefully make me do more of. If you're timing someone, so I would be like, I would try to explain stuff that I needed. There was like really like rockety stuff about my reasonable adjustments being applied and then being taken away, and I said, because I like have expertise in diversity and like equalities work, so like I kept asking like, how are you evaluating, because this whole timing me by the minute thing all implies that I'm not doing my work, which is incorrect, which is a lie. Like I don't appreciate that narrative as well. It was trying to imply that I was slow at my work, but even if I was slow at my work, like I'm disabled, so you have to equate that into the equation. So I kept asking like, how are you calculating the ways that you're timing me by the minute, because if you're not factoring in how my disabilities impact my work, that is discrimination, like clear. And what was really difficult is seeing the institution just protect this person and these people and completely gaslight me basically the entire time and just attack me for 11 months. It was really difficult to experience that, as you can imagine, especially because it's all based on falsity, and it was just, basically a smear campaign. Not what's more annoying for me, but a massive annoyance for me is that it's also a massive waste of resources. Like, it was like this person's full-time job to bully me. And to be honest, like, I'm quite proud of myself. I did the best that I could. I made it clear to this person when they were, like, talking to me and shouting to me in disrespectful ways and shouting at me. I kept saying like, please stop talking to me like that. Like, I'm not going to engage with you when you're communicating with me in these ways. That's like how adults should handle that kind of situations. And because I'm not okay with accepting abuse. I don't understand why like people should behave like you should. They all treated me like the problem. And I just think it's despicable. I just think, how can you sleep at night? How can you be okay with yourself when you do those things to someone? Especially to someone who's a marginalised group, and you know that. I was so sick that I had to start using a walking stick going into work because of how sick the bullying made me. And these people still bullied me, even though that was happening. I'm just like, how can you have no shame? And how can you be so power hungry and so like, just like awful to the point where like any of this is okay? Remember, like people boasting about being abusive people in the office, and I just think, what planet are you on? Like, it's not cool to be horrible. It's not cool to be like, to like traumatize people. Like, I thought that was obvious by now. The impact on me was massive. It was one of the hardest parts of my life, and I think the injustice of it all lives on. And I can imagine it does for many people. And I feel like it's such a waste of my skills and my time and my energy, and it really eroded my psychological and physical health as well. And I made that clear from the very start that I needed to be safe away from this because it erodes my health so rapidly. But nothing happened that like saved me from that abuse. I have to say, like, I understand that there are power structures at play, like I've said, but I just expect more from people not to be bystanders. Like there's people that got involved in the gossip, and when I went into the room they would like stop gossiping, you know, like children. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, is children. Yeah, I was even pushed by someone, like physically pushed. They like didn't ask me to move, and they were trying to take a picture or something, and this is someone that wasn't very nice, was like bullying me as well, and they physically tried to push me out of the way, and I had to stand my ground. And you know, not many people are able to talk about these things. I talk about them because as an autistic person, like I find it really hard to not be honest and to be direct and blunt about things, you know, that are important to me. And like I have really suffered because of this experience, and why should I just feel, you know, I went in there like I'm a really helpful person. I don't have many boundaries, so I think that's why people take the piss with me. I do a ton of work which is high quality. You know, I have a degree in the areas, like a master's degree in the areas that I need to do the work in, and I have so much professional experience that matched up to my role. Like I was more than capable of doing it. All we're talking about here is like bullies and like management, like bad management, which is totally normal and common. And it would have been so much easier for people to just be reflective and be accountable and being like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Like, you know, imagine how much resources that would have saved. Like it just makes me so angry that it was so much like trauma and pain and suffering that I went through, when if people did what was even in their jobs, it would be like the minimum of what is in their jobs, that wouldn't have happened. And I think when people are so, you know, oh, we believe in diversity, but then they're exploiting and being abusive towards the people around them, especially the marginalized people around them, I'm just like, how dare you? Like, how dare you have the audacity to do that and to claim that you're this pinnacle of what's right and what's moral at the same time. I just feel like, I know that that's very common, but that's also why I'm really passionate about addressing these issues, because it just doesn't, it's just like, who is it helping? Who is flourishing from this kind of garbage? You know, no one. And so I was fighting against this for many months, like nearly a whole year, every day. And yeah, it made me really sick, and it nearly hospitalized me as well, because I'm prone to like health problems with severe stress. In fact, severe stress makes my chronic pain worse. So severe stress like this makes my pain, physical pain, worse. So I was like really in a lot of pain as well, and it just sucks. It sucks so much. And it makes me just so angry that like people just didn't, like, there was one person that stuck up for me. There was one person that was like loyal and a good friend, and that made all the difference. Like, can I just say how important that is? And I just feel really angry that people, you know, just like this bullying mentality, people just joined in and people just took part of it and were bystanders, and they can just sleep at night and they're fine with that. Like, I just feel like no wonder the world is in a mess, and it's been really difficult for me to like go out there again and work more. And you know, I have, even writing emails now, like I find such a struggle because I was so badly bullied on emails by this person and harassed, and yeah. So I think it's amazing that I've kind of survived through all of this, and that I've got through it, and I've triumphed in many ways, and go me. Kind of. Not that celebratory, but yeah, I do think it's awesome that I've managed, basically. I am pretty angry about it, and I have done a lot of work to like recover and to get back into the workplace. But a lot of autistic people, non-binary people and trans people just decide to go freelance because they're just sick of it, you know? They're just really sick of it, and it happens a lot. and bullying happens a lot for marginalised groups, and we need to get to grips. We need to grow up. We need to stop it. We need to intervene. We need to care about it, or just stop pretending that you care about underrepresented groups. Just stop pretending. So I'm autistic. A lot of autistic people are bullied, unfortunately, and I do a lot of humming stims, and I'm quite I'm just quite bubbly and just a bit and I think that's awesome, but people just seem to perceive that as someone to pick on. People often get really intimidated by me, and because I have expertise in fields that a lot of the time they don't have, even though that is obviously a gift and a quality that is really great and something that I think is awesome, that has rarely been interpreted as the case, and it's usually been seen as a threat and negatively. Also, people perceive me as a woman, and so they expect me to behave as such. But firstly, I don't give a crap about gender norms. I've never seen myself as a woman, firstly, so I'm actually a trans non-binary person. And so I've just never clocked me being as assertive as this man is seen by you as aggressive, but for me, I'm just being like everyone else, so what's the problem? Because I don't think that my body parts should determine my ability to speak. Trans and non-binary people are 3 to 6 times more likely to be autistic compared to the wider population of cisgendered people. And so being autistic aware is being trans aware because of those correlations. And so I think people it's often people bully trans and autistic people and any marginalised group, unfortunately, because of some of the themes that I've mentioned before in my Why Equality Feels Like Oppression video. So I know from my own work around these fields that it doesn't matter if people don't feel like they're bullying someone else. If someone's raising a concern and they're saying, I really need help, can you just help me, to the relevant people whose job it is to help you, it doesn't take much to just protect that person, move them somewhere else, do something, even if people don't agree on what exactly is happening. That's the problem with violence and abuse, is a lot of it is subjective, right? So even though, as in, people that perpetuate it don't necessarily think it is that. Obviously there are kind of objective lines as to when it is those things. But what I'm saying is people might not know, and I'm not excusing it, but I'm just saying, it doesn't, even if people disagree and they're all debating about what's happening, whatever, who cares? You just need to sort it out. It shows what privilege does, and I think this is a pattern that's repeated everywhere, within workplaces, within power dynamics between people. I think, unfortunately, as I've explained in a different video, there are power structures at play which reinforce each other and protect themselves. And so a lot of people just get away with really terrible behaviour. And that's what happened in this case. I think they were rewarded, actually. Hypocrisy is really ingrained into our culture, and I would say our institutions and individuals as well. That's just how it is, as a broad cultural pattern. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that because it's such a culturally large problem, it's really important for us and institutions to try to learn how to be accountable and start to realise that there are real benefits from being accountable. And I think there is some space to think about how we could reward institutions and individuals for being accountable and being reflective. I think there are some exciting possibilities here that we can look at. But it does mean that we just have to get to grips with ourselves. We have to get to grips with how certain behaviours aren't okay. I think this is a larger question of the basis of how we behave, and is it writes a lot of the basis of how we have political, international politics and kind of how things are decided in government, and it infiltrates every part of our lives. And I think people don't really want that. I don't think people want this kind of, I know it's a part of the larger system, and I know that's the basis of the whole structure and systems around us, And I just think we're better than this. I think we're coming to a place where we have to start to move away from these ways of interacting and these ways of holding on to power. And because it's great to share power, it's great to share privilege. Who needs all of this privilege that's like based on abuse of power? Like, you know, I've grown up, like, I'm privileged in the sense that I've had a middle upper class upbringing internationally, and you know, those were some of the darkest years of my life, and I've always associated excess privilege with, you know, I don't need that. These things sound like they are dark, but there's hope and there's light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the ways that we get there is by holding darkness, and is by talking about these subjects that people don't talk about. And they're never going to change if we don't talk about them. There's probably a lot more, but I think I'm just going to end it, you know, the kind of going through it there.